Hi and welcome back to my channel. In this video we're going to be going over my update for the Mage Annihilation build, and it is now a hybrid, so it's pretty awesome, guys, and I think that is really useful for a lot of you out there. So please keep watching and let's rock. Alright, welcome back to my channel here again, and let's dive into a dungeon here so I can show you guys what I'm talking about with this new hybrid build that I made. By the way, I hope everyone is having a fantastic summer and a great time if you're on vacation and stuff. But anyways, let's see here. You can see that I'm using the shout to generate more casting speed, and it's actually buffing up the Annihilation spell really well. And I'm also using the Mark of Impurity to make the targets explode, and you get this chain reaction when they explode. They deal a lot of damage to each other, so in this way you will have a much easier time getting down all the mobs. And you can also use the mobs, pull big groups and kill them faster, and also pull them towards the end bosses and deal a lot of damage to the end boss this way. And I've had a lot of fun playing around with this build now. To be able to pull this off, you have to equip a catalyst in one hand, and you have to equip a dagger in the other hand to be able to use the Mark of Impurity spell. So as you can see, they are exploding quite fast. And also I have the modifier on the shout so that I will get a ton of healing globes, which is pretty cool, right? So but I think you get the idea of this build right now, and let's dive into more detail on how everything is set up for this, and afterwards we will continue the rest of the gameplay for you guys. Alrighty then, today we're going to start off with the gear. Now let's take a look at the catalyst I'm using. You can see the gems is occult damage. You need to put in occult damage gems to really buff up Annihilation, and the same in the dagger. And this is the best items that I found so far. And I want to use boots with a lot of movement speed, but it should really have been a sorcerer item because you need to get the force shield up. But I'm still actually looking for boots. You can see the belt here, 15% spell damage. And the rings, you really need to just, pick the ones that are buffing up the damage the most. A ton of force shield here on the rope, and force shield regeneration is pretty nice. And I'm still looking for another glove to replace that one, because you really want to get the sorcerer one to buff up all the force shield. But here you can see what I'm using for this build. Again, a lot of force shield regeneration. And mainly ferocity. You want to have pieces with ferocity if you can. Alright, well, not enough talk about the gear. So let's talk about the skills. Let's start off here with Annihilation. You can see the damage is 1846. We're using the shout as well. For buffing up the cast speed 25%, and Mark of Impurity to make the mobs explode, and Bulwark of Dawn, which will grant us our resistances and more good stuff. So let's dive in here. You can see we are running with increased damage and pierces enemies and grants a second beam. The next spell here, enemies hit by shout gain stacks of weakness, increased health globe spawning, and increase the duration of the buffs granted, and also increase the effectiveness of all buffs granted. So we'll gain even more cast speed than 25% actually, and it's really buffing up the Annihilation spell. Marked enemies more vulnerable. Enemies killed will explode and deal damage based on the max health. Spreads to surrounding units. So they explode and they also spread this disease, and it's pretty damn cool. Now, increased duration grants bonus to all resistances. Separate damage to attacks while standing in the area. The healing area follows the player that it was cast on. So you don't have to worry, it just stays on you, right? Increased teleport range, gain willpower for an enemy pass through. Casting the ability removes all crowd control effects and can be cast multiple times at an increased cost. So these are the skills that we're using. And finally, let's talk about the stats and the passive skill tree. I've spent every point that I have in ferocity, and I have extra ferocity as well. You can see the damage right now at 1990 on Annihilation. I gained a little more damage. I've been playing around with the passive skill tree, but let's see here. Critical hit damage again. Critical hit damage 10% here. 15% critical hit damage and 25 plus to ferocity. 10% cooldown reduction and all resistances and some health, and the same again here. So we're going down here to gain the spell damage, 10% spell damage and cost reduction, force shield, and force shield. There's 60% plus the force shield, right? Ailment stack duration to gain the spell damage here, 2 nose with 15% spell damage. And last off here, killing an enemy grants 15% damage for each ailment type. That is pretty nice. Now, 25% more to force shield and status ailment resistance. Now, 20% spell damage. 20% spell damage again here. And more damage and spellcasting speed. And the same again here, spellcasting speed and damage. And we move up to the Warlock, 20 plus to willpower and 15% spell damage 3 times here. And buffing up the force shield once more with another 60% here. Gaining some spell casting speed right now, and elemental damage and occult damage. And also some regen here for the force shield. And 200 increase max willpower and rage. We're going over this way because I want to head over to the ranger section to this attack speed. You will not benefit much from that, but we want to get the 20% here when we are far away and the 10% again here when we are far away, and in the end plus the force shield again, which is really damn nice. Let's get back to some gameplay now, guys. So, just to sum up a little bit here while we are watching the gameplay again. Remember that you need to be wearing a catalyst in one hand and a dagger in the other hand, and remember to put gems in with occult damage to buff up your Annihilation spell. Also, sometimes it can feel a bit clunky. When you're using the shout, you gain rage, but you lose willpower. So often I use the shout, and right after I spend a willpower potion. But then again, you will also need the rage to be casting Mark of Impurity. So usually spend your shout and use Mark of Impurity on one of the mobs. Right after you gathered everything in, you should do it in this order. And then you'll just explode everything using the Annihilation spell. And remember, when you're facing tougher mobs, use your healing ability to gain some all resistances, and this will keep you stay alive. Sorry, this will help you stay alive. And remember, you can regain your willpower if you use either jump through other enemies. You will regain some willpower there as well. And basically it's just about, you know, practice for this build, and I think it's a lot of fun, so I hope to hear from you guys to get some feedback and what you think about this build. And I will just leave you with the rest of the gameplay for now, so you can take a look on how I play. Anyways, it was really a joyful experience to deliver this video to you guys, and I hope that you will stop by my channel another time and like and subscribe if you find this useful. So I will just see you around pretty soon, guys. Thank you and bye bye.